Thank you so much for joining me for part 2, Frequency Healing. Can it really be this simple? I so appreciate you all tuning in for the second part of this series. It looks like, since it's jam-packed with information that I really want to share with you, it's going to be a 3-part series. In this series, in this particular part, I want to share with you a few more studies regarding health and also Dr. Gulog's work that he did with the environment. And I think, given the current situation in the worldwide, with everyone concerned with the environment and health and just all of these topics that really are in the news media, it's really great to look into this science a little bit deeper that mainstream media is considering as woo-woo science and ignoring when the evidence is very well documented, but not very well known to the public. So let's get started. In part 1, I introduced you to Dr. Alexander Gulog, who was quoted as saying, "In my opinion, the main problem in the study of pyramids is that many tend to see the results of the research elements of mysticism and shamanism." There's that woo-woo science, or as Einstein would call it, spooky science. However, scientists with intuition already know that here we are dealing with a new physics and new biology. And just for scale, I wanted to share with you one of Dr. Gulog's pyramids. And here, this pyramid is over 330 feet tall. And we'll talk about that in a minute. But for scale, that's actually Dr. Gulog at the bottom, along with his car. It kind of looks like a little Matchbox car, doesn't it? Russian geometry pyramids are by far the most extensively and rigorously tested pyramids ever studied, using strict scientific protocol. This research has been carried out by teams of Russian and Ukrainian military, geological, medical, and behavioral scientists. According to Dr. Gulog, the geometry and building materials chosen were shown after extensive research to be the optimal for providing the most favorable environment for mankind and nature. After the fall of the Soviet Union, Dr. Gulog and his team were tasked with studying ways pyramids could provide benefits to humanity and the environment. Testing was done in numerous sites and areas of interest, including health, environmental remediation, behavioral health, and agriculture. This research involved the construction of over 50 pyramids throughout Russia and Ukraine, and this research continues today with the proposed construction of a 100-meter or 330-foot pyramid outside of Moscow. That pyramid is what I showed you with the tiny little car in the scale. So continuing sharing what Dr. Gulog researched with the medical field, another one of his studies that he did was the pyramid reduces infant mortality rate. So the focus of the study was to research and do investigation on the influence of 40% solution of glucose in distilled water administered orally on premature babies with compromised immune systems, which would normally have resulted in death within a few days. In the experiment, the infants were each fed a few milliliters of 40% glucose to water solution that had been stored in a healing pyramid energy field. So it wasn't even in the pyramid, it was just in the energy field around the pyramid. And the conclusion of the data was that in all cases, administration of the pyramid-exposed glucose solution resulted in health levels increasing rapidly up to practically normal values, and further testing found that the results were the same after applying 1 milliliter of water only, which had been exposed to the pyramid. So Think about this for a second. With this experiment, if we think about all of the premature babies that are in the hospital in the NIC unit, in the NICU, neonatal units that are there for weeks, months at a time, and some may not even make it out, this experiment is huge for assisting families and the well-being of infants. I just think this is so fascinating. Additionally, I'm just going to go over some of the other research that Dr. Gulo did, and I'm just going to go over the ones that are highlighted in red. If you want, you can pause this video and you can read them all. So immune systems of organisms improved, such as the blood leukocytes composition increased. So that would be the white blood cells. We went over that in video 1. Improved regeneration of tissue. So anyone who's having muscle atrophy or torn muscles, it would appear that being exposed to a pyramid would speed up the regeneration process and improve the regeneration. Increased levels of REM sleep and increased levels of melatonin. So as we age, our melatonin levels decrease, we require less sleep, or we can't sleep, or if they're attacked by stress. So that's a benefit as well. Psychotropic drugs have less of an effect on people either staying inside or within the close range of the pyramid field. So there would be benefits to that if individuals were detoxing off of drugs, being exposed to the pyramid field. Levels of toxicity of any substance exposed in the pyramid, even for a short period of time, decreased. The levels of radioactive substance exposed in the pyramid decreased. So it decreases radioactivity. So what benefit? That would just have fascinating benefits for those who are having side effects from chemotherapy. He goes on, the levels of pathogenics of various protein formations, such as viruses and bacteria, exposed to the pyramid also decreased. In the area of the pyramid, or in the area of objects exposed in the pyramid, the effectiveness of any psychotropic effect was reduced. So that kind of goes back to the psychotropic drugs. Very encouraging data was obtained in cases of the use of standard solutions such as glucose, isotonic solutions, etc., intravenously and externally with alcoholism and drug addiction, there we go, even in very advanced forms. So it would appear here that the additional studies that they did has far greater benefits to those and health benefits at little to no cost or drugs. Now moving on to some of his studies in the environment, he was tasked with the Russian geometry pyramid dramatically reducing airborne environmental poisons. So the background history was, since the inception of the Oxarayski gas condensation plant in Astarkhan, Russia, had been poisoning and polluting the surrounding environment, spewing huge amounts of radon, hydrogen sulfide, and other environmental toxins in the air. And due to the extent of the pollution, all villagers within a 30-kilometer, which is 19-mile zone, had been resettled. The city of Narambu is 40 kilometers or 25 miles away, but the city is downwind from the plant and was still being severely affected by the environmental pollution. So the proposed experiment was that the general director of the plant sent a representative to discuss with Dr. Goulod the idea of constructing a Russian pyramid near the plant of Astrakhan, and subsequently a 22-meter Russian geometry pyramid was built on the Astrakhan highway between the plant and the city of Nerembo. Forgive my Russian, I can't pronounce this very well. But the data results were as such. The data was collected by the city health department indicate that prior to the installation of the pyramid, there were on average of 550 to 650 cases of environmental poisoning per year in this small little town. In the first year after the pyramid was constructed, the number of reported poisonings of cases dropped to 208. So that's over half of the cases or more dropped just the first year. A year later, only 70 poisonings were reported. The year after that, so that's 3 years now into this, on the third year, there were only a few isolated poisoning cases, and a few years after that, the city department stopped keeping statistics because it had drastically declined in reporting poisons almost to zero. That is amazing that just erecting a pyramid in size could clear the air of all of these poisonous pollutions, heavy metals, and toxins. Just mind-blowing to me. Okay, so then the next study that he did was to create new streams and regenerate extinct plant species. Okay, so the results of this particular study was that a Russian geometry pyramid harmonizes space within its radius of influence. After construction of a pyramid in an area of Sliger Lake, new streams appeared in the area. A stork set up a nest, and nearby fields became covered with previously extinct species of flowers. How beautiful is that? He then went on, that just like all these extinct plants could possibly come back by simply being exposed to pyramid energy. He later went on to study purification of contaminated water. And Russia is not very, environmentally friendly. So this is a big one. The goal was to determine whether pyramids can purify well water contaminated with strontium, heavy metals, and salt. The experiment method was a series of pyramids were built in the Arkhangelsky region of Russia. Okay, forgive my pronunciation there as well. The data collected results were that the strontium and heavy metals that had contaminated a well were able to be cleared by the effects of the pyramid. In another town, a pyramid was constructed that reduced the amount of salt in the water. So the implications of this study I find, again, fascinating. It just like, can it really be this simple? Just to construct a pyramid and have these amazing effects that can be duplicated over and over again through their very strict scientific protocol. And in theory, yes, it could. Think about all of these countries that have no water, that could use these pyramids for salt purification. It's just fascinating to me. In the agricultural field, the goal was to determine if placing various types of crop seeds inside a Russian geometry pyramid prior to planting would affect the production yield of the crop. Okay, and the experiment method was before planting the crop, seeds were placed inside the pyramid for 1 to 5 days. Tens of thousands of acres were seeded with over 20 different crops. And the data collected showed that in each case, there was a 20% to 100% improvement in crop productivity, and the crops were disease-free and not affected by drought. The quantity of toxin or toxic substances in plants decreased. Similar results were obtained when stones previously exposed to pyramid energy were placed around the crop fields. So that again goes back to they reproduced the same study that when they put the stones in the pyramids, they took those stones and laid them out throughout different towns in circles, and the rates of cancer decreased along with serious illness. So there again, the stones, anything that is put inside the pyramid or in the pyramid energy field, seems to have a positive effect on the individuals and or plant life or environment. Then they did a study to see if it would increase wheat production. So the goal was to determine if the existence of a Russian geometry pyramid would impact the production of wheat. So they erected a 12-meter, which is 37 feet tall, pyramid, which was constructed in a wheat field adjacent to another wheat field with similar soil and ground conditions. And the results concluded that the wheat grown in the field containing the Russian geometry pyramid had a yield of 400% more of that than the controlled planting. 400% more. So pyramids can assist with growing more crops and feeding more people. So in further studying the effect of pyramids, Dr. Gulog did a study to see if pyramids create far-reaching energy fields. And this is for all of the woo-woo scientists out there that say, oh, they don't do anything. So the goal was to see if the Russian geometry pyramid had an impact on the atmosphere surrounding the pyramid. The experiment method was that radar equipment was placed at a distance of, I'm just going to read the miles here, 19, 20, and 38 miles from a 68-foot Russian geometry pyramid. That's pretty big. And the results were that radar reading indicated the presence of an ionized energy field approximately 6,200 feet high and 1,550 feet wide. That's huge, along the vertical axis of the pyramid. The column was constantly changing its height from 2,500 feet to 6,200 feet, and the radar reflecting ability of this formation was comparable to the reflecting ability of an airplane. So basically what that means is you see an airplane blip on the radar screen, you could also detect the energy or the pyramid field on a radar screen, just like you could detect an airplane. The further studies confirmed that the large circle of the ionized energy surrounding the area above the pyramid in a 185-mile range, with the highest concentration being directly above the vertical axis of the pyramid. So that would be at the point of the pyramid. Dr. Gulog's team calculated that if such an energy column were to be produced electromagnetically, it would require all the combined energy of all the power plants in Russia. Wait, hold up. Okay, so let's put this into perspective for a second. This is saying 185 miles range, okay, is this energy vortex of this pyramid. So to put that into perspective, if you looked at a map, Long Island, New York City, is only 118 miles long and 20 miles wide. Or take Delaware for the state of Delaware. The state of Delaware is only 96 miles and 35 miles across. So this large circle of ionized energy is bigger than Long Island or the state of Delaware. Wow. And if we were to try to produce this much energy in an electromagnetically, it would require all the combined energy plants in Russia to try to produce that much energy? Wow. I think Tesla was onto something. Okay, so Dr. Goulard further went on to hypothesize that, and his hypothesis is that there is an energy vortex above the pyramid, and that the detected atmospheric ionization is a consequence of what he called vortex radiation. Further, the detected ionic column above the pyramid delineates the neck of the funnel. So basically this energy, as he's saying, spirals upward, up the top of the pyramid, and out through the top. So it spirals like DNA. Just a hypothesis. We're going to look into that in video 3. So then he goes on to say that researchers noted that fragments of the ionic column detached above the pyramid and moved in an upward flow. These fragments retained their configuration at large distances from the pyramid, and based on this data, Dr. Gulog assumed the possibility of separation and movement of this ionization with the ascending flow of the air, and depending on the weather conditions, these structures can be anywhere on the planet in just a few days. So not to take up a whole lot more time on this particular video, to summarize the scientific findings, Dr. Gulog was reported as saying the field structure of any object, be it a mineral, a solution, cellular tissue, or a living creature, undergoes major changes in the area of impact of the pyramid. These structures, as it were, become ordered, optimal, and harmonious. In this zone, ordinary thought forms, simple wishes, become part of the field structure, which increases the probability of events initiated in the pyramid field by which thought by many orders of magnitude. The power and strength of the field structures ordered in this way increases drastically as all components are in resonance with the shape of the pyramid, which is the state of harmony based on sacred geometry. That little part Sunlion added. And let us not forget our dear friend Nikola Tesla, who was also quoted as saying, "If you want to find the secrets of the universe, Think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. And that is exactly what Dr. Alexander Gulag did with these pyramids. Thank you so much for joining me for part 2 of this series. I really appreciate all of you tuning in for part 2. I know coming out of this pandemic, many people have a lot of concerns about getting the jab or not getting the jab, and just general health concerns because they're not feeling well. And hopefully, this introduction to an alternative way of thinking can spark some thoughts and conversation, and realize that maybe it's not woo-woo science after all, just because mainstream media isn't covering it. This particular study that we've gone over in the last 2 videos has been very well documented, yet very few people know about it. So if you have a pyramid, please let me know in the comments below. What have you used it for? What have you noticed? I know my personal experiences, I've had very positive experiences with my pyramid, as I shared with you in video 1, as have my coworkers. So I really would like to know, and I'm sure those who are watching this video would like to read those comments as well. So again, I want to say thank you for the likes, the shares, the comments, and please don't forget to hit the notification bell so you'll be notified when part 3 is posted and uploaded. And I want to say thank you, take care, God bless, and bye for now.